Today is Thursday, February 13. I'm Pastor Anthony, and this is Wilderness Wanderings. Today our text comes from Ephesians 2. Therefore remember that formerly you who are Gentiles by birth, and called uncircumcised by those who call themselves the circumcision, which is done in the body by human hands, remember that at that time you were separate from Christ, excluded from citizenship in Israel, and foreigners to the covenants of the promise, without hope and without God in the world. But now in Christ Jesus, you who were once far away have been brought near by the blood of Christ. It's Ephesians 2, verses 11 through 13. It is sad to say it, but it is time to say it. Wilderness Wanderings will be wrapping up soon, as I, Pastor Anthony, take a call to Orillia. So in these final installments over the next few weeks, we will be reflecting on the letter to Ephesians, particularly those verses that lead us into Paul's prayer from the end of chapter 3. In some ways, the verses from today's text are a repeat of the verses that began the chapter, where Paul wrote, "You were dead in your transgressions and sins." Paul begins with the past tense, both there and here, to heighten the contrast, because in Christ, things now look a lot different. The point Paul was making at the beginning of the chapter was about death and life, sin and salvation. But now he begins to work his way into the implications of being saved by grace through faith. What does it mean to practice this resurrection life we've been given by the grace of God? Firstly, it means working out the grace that God has worked into us. That's what the verses before these ones describe. But living out resurrection also comes with a change in status and relationship. Here, Paul comes with a litany of things that the Ephesians were and weren't before Jesus entered into the picture. They were Gentiles, uncircumcised, separate from Christ, excluded from citizenship, foreigners to the covenants of the promise, without hope, without God in the world. Of course, what one realizes is that this list only makes sense from the point of view of an insider to all these things. That is, a Jewish person. Pious Jews were accustomed to praying a daily prayer of thanks to God for not being created as a Gentile. The temple courts, likewise, were divided into inner and outer courts, one for Gentiles on the outside and one for Jews on the inside. Gentiles could not pass through the dividing wall on the penalty of death. Warnings were posted in Greek and Latin to make sure they knew. Hostilities ran hot between insiders and outsiders, as they did at some level between many different ethnic groups. But here's the thing. Jesus tears down all these ethnic hostilities and barriers. He strips these believing Gentiles of all their former disqualifications. Not only that, he has the audacity to bring these Gentiles who were once far away, not just into the inner court, but into the very presence of God. He tears the veil to the Holy of Holies in Israel's temple, and by his blood invites them right in. This is not merely an interesting point of ancient history or biblical research. It is emblematic of something much deeper. In his cross, Jesus shatters all ethnic and national boundaries inside his church. Not just then, but also today. And not firstly by giving courses on EDI or anti-racism training to tell us of our biases and how to treat one another. No, it begins much more subversively than that. Jesus begins simply by bringing those who were once far away near. Near enough that we all have to encounter one another and contend with the fact that we're all now siblings of the same saved family and on the same basis. None other than faith in Jesus. Together in the presence of Jesus, stuck now with hated enemies, immigrants, and foreign outcasts who have become our sisters and brothers, well, this is where transformation into the life of resurrection begins. And the question is, will you, will I submit to that encounter? As you journey on, go with God's blessing. May the peace of the Lord Christ go with you, wherever he may send you. May He guide you through the wilderness and protect you through the storm. May He bring you home rejoicing at the wonders He has shown you. May He bring you home rejoicing once again into our doors.